Okay. Don't know why that's so hard for me. At any rate, I am guessing that a preponderance of the 50 or so people that are here right now are people who have already opted in to the LevAi opportunity, but I don't know that. And so I want my time here with you to be very, very efficient and beneficial for each of you. If you are not yet involved in this company, if you're here looking at it, please click the thing that raises your hand so that I can see. If there's a significant percentage of you who are not yet involved in the company, that would cause my direction to be a little bit different. I'm kind of guessing that right now we have a bunch of early adopters who are all right now trying to decide exactly what do we do? How do we turn this into money? What is my next step? And so if there are any of you here right now who are not already at least on a preliminary application or a have not, or if you purchased your product package or you're at least in a temporary application, don't raise your hand. If you're here just looking, raise your hand. Okay, I'm guessing, and that hand raised thing down here is not going up. And so I'm kind of assuming then that I'm speaking to people who want to be told how to turn this into money. So this will be a combination. Sure enough, it could be used as a business presentation, but it really is an illustration of a couple of things. It's a recognition that we really have two separate opportunities. One is to use LevAi as a business, and one is to use LevAi for your business or in your business, whatever that business is. They're really quite different messages. They are not similar messages. And yesterday, I had a text from a couple of people who are deeply rooted in what I've done for a living for many, many years, that being the direct selling industry. And that the message was along these lines was, Randy, I'm excited, but I want to know how to do what I've always done within the context of LevAi. They would tell me, Randy, I'm not one who is interested in going out and finding countless untold prospects. I want to build, or countless untold product users. I want to build an organization in depth as I typically have. And so it brought to my mind the clarity of thought that perhaps some people who have been involved in the direct selling industry for many years might be feeling a little bit left out in the cold, as our principal product message or our principal message has been not about the business of AI, but about using AI in our business. And so this conversation specifically is much more about the business of LevAi, separate and distinct from using LevAi in our business. If we're a real estate broker, we're a mortgage broker, and so on. And this conversation would revert to my historic understanding of what has been required for success in the direct selling industry, and then identifying the hows and whys. This particular set of facts fit it really, really, really well. And so, and by the way, I'm fully expecting that I'm going to be talking longer than most of you are going to be listening because there's quite a bit of information that I'm going to cover. And so I invite you to tune in for as long as you care to tune in and gather the information that you want to gather. And if your schedule requires that you move on, go ahead. But I'm going to make this a fairly comprehensive discussion. And I'm going to start. I believe that we need to start in the very beginning, going back to what I've always done, is we need to start way back here. If a person is going to be using LevAi as a business and they're going to be using the direct selling methodology in delivering that LevAi product suite of services to others, then the very first thing that we have to do is we have to, as has always been the case for me, is we have to identify what is it about network marketing that's good, what's about it that's challenging, why are some people afraid, and why are some people such great advocates. And so very simple. I reflect upon, it was February 9th of 1990. I went to a business presentation. It was for a network marketing company called Newskin. And as I just described to you, we can view our company a couple of different ways. LevAi is a artificial intelligence business. And many of us will choose to operate in a historic network marketing environment in terms of bringing that business model to people. Others will choose to use LevAi purely as an affiliate marketing, not building in depth. Others will simply go out and sell the product. So there's really three different buckets here that we could fit into. And I'm going to talk right now about one that we've ignored a little bit. And so first of all, the simple thoughts of why network marketing. For me, it's very simple. I stood in line and I waited all that time for a guy named Nathan Ricks to talk to me. And I was so annoyed by it. People were taking pictures with him and they were having him sign autographs. And I thought, this is about the most obnoxious thing I've ever seen. But I waited my turn. Why? Because he had something I wanted. I wanted what he had. And I didn't want to take it from him, but I wanted to be able to do what he was doing. And so I stood and I waited in line. And when I got to my turn, I said, Nathan, please tell me why I should do what you do instead of what I do. And at that time, I was not a very highly evolved individual. The truth is, I was doing nothing because I'd just been fired from Merrill Lynch because I'd been found mismanaging accounts when I was impaired under the influence of alcohol and cocaine. Today, things have changed for me. Today, I just tell the truth, and I tell the truth when it's attractive, and I tell the truth when it's not attractive. I hadn't arrived at that point yet. And so I said, Nathan, I want to know why I should do what you do instead of what I do. And he said, well, what do you do? I said, I'm a senior vice president at Merrill Lynch. That had been true a couple of days before. It wasn't true that day. And he said, well, Randy, this will be easier than most. And I said, why? He said, because please tell me, Randy, on whose efforts do you get paid? And I could now pose the question to anyone who has not embraced the concept of leveraged income. We operate a company called LevAi, leveraging artificial intelligence. Well, Nathan taught me that very first day about how to leverage other people's time, how to leverage other people's successes, how to leverage other people's knowledge. Leverage has always been a part of my world. And so he asked me this simple. He said, what do you do? I'm a stockbroker. And he said, oh, okay. Well, tell me, on whose efforts do you get paid? I said, well, I get paid on one guy's efforts. It's this guy. He said, that's the problem, Randy. If you want to have a real financial breakthrough, you're going to need to figure out a way to get paid for what other people do, not just what you do. And then he opened up a monthly commission report. It was that many years ago. And he thumbed through it about like a deck of cards. And he said, Randy, I've got more than 100,000 people here. And whenever they buy one of this company's products or whenever they sell one of the company's products, he said, they make a little bit of money and I make a little bit of money. And he said, you get paid on the efforts of one. I get paid on the efforts of over 100,000. Whose way's better, mine or yours? Wasn't any question about whose way was better. His was clearly better. And then he said, and so Randy, and you get paid on one guy's efforts, just you, that's a problem. And then he said, and when do you get paid? I said, well, I mean, every Friday. And he said, no, when can you make money? And I got the message, oh, well, I make money between 6:30 a.m. when the market opens on the West Coast where I lived at the time and 1 p.m. That's when I make money. That's when the market's open. And he said, right. And so he said, and do you have a mortgage on your home? At that time, I had a really big mortgage. And I said, yeah. I said, well, when does the lender charge you interest? Do they likewise charge you interest between 6:30 a.m. and 1 Monday to Friday? Or do they charge you interest 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year? And he went further. He said, what did you drive here today? Well, at that point in time, I was driving a really cute little BMW sports car. And he said, well, did you pay cash for it or do you have a loan on it? I had a loan on it. And he said, and when does the lender charge you interest? Do they charge you interest only the hours of the day when you make money? I said, no, of course not. And he said, so Randy, you've identified your primary problem. You're a part-time earner. You earn money part of the time, and you're a full-time spender. And that's why you're broke and you're likely to stay broke. He said, you need to find a way to get paid for what other people do, not just what you do. And you need to find a way to get paid on hours when you're not working. And then he thumbs through that printout again like a deck of cards. He said, here's my group in Japan. They're just getting up and going to work when I'm going to sleep. Here's my group in Russia. They're going to work when the guys in Japan are not. And he said, Randy, the difference is when I fall asleep at night, I will make more money as I sleep because a bigger part of my business is in time zones outside the United States. And once again, he said, and Randy, whose way is better, mine or yours? Well, his way was better. And so I would pose the question to anyone who has not embraced the direct selling industry, on whose efforts do you get paid? We can show you how to get paid on more people's efforts. On whose consumption do you get paid? Probably none. We can show you how to get paid on the consumption of many, many people. He said, on whose efforts do you get paid? On whose consumption do you get paid? What hours a day can you get paid? Find a way to get paid 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then he said, Randy, the real magic is when we finally have a 24-hour per day income generating model and people are no longer dependent upon your provoking their behavior. They're continuing because of the profit incentive they're making money. And so the first thing we have to do is identify the why network marketing. And I will tell you that beyond those surface reasons, the truth is that our total current outcome in life, your outcome, my outcome right now, they are based upon what? They're based upon the things that we know. We cannot act upon knowledge we don't have. If we want to change our outcome, we must gather new knowledge. If you get involved in a properly constructed direct selling leadership organization, specifically this one, you will gather knowledge that in all likelihood will not be presented to you in any other way. In all likelihood, that will be true. And so if we gather new knowledge, that gives us another opportunity for success. If we have more knowledge, that's a good thing. But of course, knowledge doesn't make money, does it? I know a lot of really, really knowledgeable people who are not especially affluent. And so now we have to go further. Knowledge is what we know, but skill is what we know how to do. So our total life outcomes are predicated on our knowledge, what we know, our skill, what we know how to do. But there remains a very important contributor to that. There's our knowledge, there is our skill. But then there's something of greatest importance, and that is our character. See, what if after this discussion, two of you are sitting together and one said to the other, this Randy guy, he's clearly got some knowledge. We can see that. And his past results indicate his skill is there, but you know what? I just don't like him. He's full of himself. He's arrogant. He doesn't tell the truth. I understand he behaves poorly around women. He's drunk 2/3 of the time. I just don't want to be in business with the guy. So frequently, people focus on knowledge and skill, recognizing that the first focus should be upon character. If people want to be in association with us, they will be very patient as we gather the knowledge and develop the skills. If they don't want to be in business with us, then the pressure on the skill and the pressure on the knowledge becomes absolutely intense. At any rate, why network marketing? Because it grants to each of us the chance to work when we want, where we want, with whom we want, and if we want. And if we are so fortunate that we align ourselves with the right group of people, then we will, by virtue of our association with them, become something more than we were before we arrived. That's certainly been the case for me. And so, the first thing that I always know I have to do if a person is going to embark in a different generation, or they're going to transition to a different way of generating income, and we always have to start with this. Every person that you know have. And if they're not currently involved in it, that means they've made a decision, conscious or subconscious, that it's not as good as whatever they're doing. Can you imagine this? The guy I see these people who drive around and they pick up the honey buckets, the porta potties. And I think the person who is picking up these honey buckets, they have heard of network marketing, and yet they're picking up honey buckets and they're pumping them out and then redelivering. So they've made a decision, conscious or subconscious, that picking up porta potties is a better way to live and a better way to generate income than being involved in the network marketing industry. That's what they've decided, or they would be in the network marketing industry. And so I always know when I start that a person has a set of beliefs and thoughts and emotions that are dramatically different than mine. And if I pretend that that is not a reality, then I'm starting in a very deep hole. That's why I acknowledge it right up front. It's why in every conversation I start with a validation of why network marketing is this, folks, believe it or not, is the single best way to move a product to an inline user from the point of manufacturer, developer. It's the best way to generate income, and it's the best way to live. But until unless one comes across that bridge of not just embracing, but embracing and being thrilled with and proud of and grateful for the fact that the fundamental principles which govern direct selling are superior to those which govern conventional business. And our company, LevAi, takes those principles, refines them, makes them current, makes them right for the moment, and is the highest iteration of those sets of principles. This is a better way to move products to inline users. It's a better way to generate income. It's a better way to live. Now, if and only if one accepts that, if we don't get across that bridge, if we can't get across the bridge of here is network marketing, and if we can't get across the bridge of network marketing is really good, if we don't get over there, then nothing else we say or do is going to make any difference in terms of one developing a leadership structure inside LevAi for the purpose of delivering the service, for the purpose of generating revenues and royalties. And so that's why I start there. Now, if one, and we could spend, by the way, lots of time, I encourage you all to stay tuned. Shortly, I will make current again a video that I call the evolution of network marketing, which goes through the last 50 years and beyond of what's happened in this industry, the good, the bad, and the in between, and what are its validating points. Understand this: we must know more than our candidate knows. When I was at Merrill Lynch, I was taught I must know more than my customer. I must know my customer. I must know and understand the risk and reward parameters. And I must know more than they know about the investment that we're proposing, or why in the world would they acquire it from me. It's the same way in our business. We must know more than our candidate knows about what direct selling is. If we don't know more, then our insecurities will immediately be evidenced, and that's what our candidate will perceive and feel, and it will be entirely unattractive. And so, for me, I start way ahead of the game, don't I? With every interaction. Because is there even one of you here who wonders right now? Is even one of you wondering? I wonder what Randy really thinks about the direct selling business model. You can tell, can't you, what I think? I think it's an absolute thing of beauty. That's what I think. It's what I feel. It's what I believe. And you see, our candidate, they hear what we believe. They feel what we feel. The words that come out of our mouth is of relatively less importance than the belief with which they are expressed, or the emotion with which they are expressed, because of the way we feel about their veracity. And so I would say that for the vast majority of people, if you intend to use LevAi as a business in terms of developing a leadership structure, the very first task is to come to know and understand what is it about direct selling that's good, What is it that has caused the challenges for the industry over the years? How is it that this company overcomes that challenge? Why is it that this company is a catalyst in the future growth of the industry? If in fact you come to know and believe what I know and believe, that we are offering people a gift, both in terms of the technology side of LevAi and the business side of direct selling, bringing those two together, now that is what your candidate will feel, that is what they will sense, it is what they will hear, and suddenly the words with which you express your opinions about LevAi become less important. And so now let's contemplate if and only if we have embraced the idea that it's better to be in direct selling than something else. You see, I find this to be such a fascinating business. Imagine the ease with which this could happen. We're in a cocktail party, we're at a golf tournament, and I meet you for the first time. You extend your hand and you say, "Hi, I'm Bill." I say, "Hey, Bill, it's a really a pleasure to meet you. What does you do? Are you retired? Are you still working? What do you do?" "Oh, I'm very much in the game. I'm a cardiac surgeon." Wow, that was good, wasn't it? Wow, you're a cardiac surgeon. That's impressive. Society's decided that being a cardiac surgeon is good. Hi, I'm Randy Schrader. I'm a I'm an accountant. I'm a financial planner. Hi, I'm Randy Schrader. I'm a school teacher. Hi, I'm Randy Schrader. I own a transportation company. Hi, I'm Randy Schrader. I drive an Uber. All of those things are pretty easy. Hi, I'm Randy Schrader. I'm involved in network marketing. You know what? For me, that's the easiest thing imaginable because I would rather be involved in network marketing than do any of those other things. I once got involved in network marketing because that's what was available to me. Today, I stay involved in network marketing, though everything else on this planet seemingly is available to me, the number of things that come rushing my way. But I set them aside because why? Because I believe to the center of my being that the industry itself is fundamentally superior. Now, if one believes that, then one has to identify and what is it about a company, an entity within an industry that would make it stand out in an industry that stands out if and when it's done right. So the first element required for success is a product or service that matters to people. And now we'll have a little bit of a blended conversation. And by the way, what exactly is it that we're trying to do? Let's contemplate and consider first what we're trying to do before we consider and what are the factors that must be in place in order for us to accomplish that which we seek. So, what do we seek to do? This is it. We seek to engage in a proved and predictable pattern of activities. I want you to know that there is exactly no luck and there is no guesswork. There is a sum certain. If we do A, we will get B, and if we don't, we won't. If we do B, we'll get C, and if we don't, we won't. There is a proved and predictable pattern of activities that is designed to do what? That is designed to create an ever expanding and potentially limitless web, an ever expanding and potentially limitless web of consumers and or users of the product that the company offers. That's what we do. We engage in a predictable pattern of activities designed to create an ever expanding and potentially limitless web of consumers. Why is it ever expanding? Well, because I drop a pebble in a pond, I invite a handful of people to come on over my home, I tell them about LevAi, they embrace, some do, some don't. Those who embrace, a few days later, they've invited a handful of friends to hop into a Zoom room or meet them at a coffee shop. And just like that, the ripple spread one generation away. And a week later, those people are what? They're inviting a handful of candidates, a handful of friends to take a look at what LevAi is, an ever expanding and potentially limitless web of consumers of the product and service. And if you are the person who set in motion that cascade of activities, and by the way, we'll recap those before this session is done, talking about the 10 steps that I was taught years ago, which have in fact resulted in this creation of this ever expanding web. And this ever expanding web, believe it or not, in my own direct selling career has produced over 5 billion US dollars in product purchasing by the participants in the web and by the customers that they had who were outside the web. So we identify the elements that are required for success in a properly constructed direct selling company. After having identified that the fundamental principles governing the direct selling industry are in fact superior to those which govern conventional business, we then engage in a 10-step process, which has been proven in my own career, just in my career, to have created more than $5 billion in sales. And those people who are the progenitors of that never ending growth of those circles, they earn royalties on the products that move through the web. That is what we do. Now, there are 5 elements I've always believed were possible, and today I'm appending to that and calling it a 5.5 or a sixth element. There are 5 elements which must be in place. If number one, we satisfy ourselves the direct selling industry is good, not bad, not just good, but better than what else is out there, then we must identify and what is it within the various entrants in the direct selling industry that would make them not where it would not just be possible to create that which we seek to create, but which the outcome would cause that to become likely as opposed to possible. And so the first element is a product or service that matters to people. Now, I've come to understand over the course of my career that there are a few things that will cause this to grow spontaneously. If some of these facets are in place that would cause it to grow spontaneously, then it is a broader percentage of people who will be able to have early successes. And basically, it comes down to this. If the product or service, whatever it is that the company offers, does the following things. If the product first has the capacity to provoke an emotional response, if the product will provoke an emotional response. And what are emotions? Joy, exhilaration, excitement. Those are positive emotions. Sadness, sorrow, fear. Those are negative emotions. If the product or service has the capacity to provoke positive emotion, then that will have a tremendously important outcome. If it provokes that positive emotion, then people who are not effervescent in personality and people who are not promoter types, what do you think of that? The sales type. I am one. Folks, I emerged from the womb selling something to somebody. And whether or not I'm trying to do that's what's always occurring for me. I'm trying to cause the ideas that are exciting to me to become exciting to other people. Well, there's a segment of our society who share those personality characteristics. And there's another segment of our society for whom that's almost abhorrent to contemplate themselves doing that. But you know that person who would consider it to be abhorrent, if he or she has an emotional response, you know what they do? They talk about it because they're not selling something. They're talking in joy, enthusiasm, in confidence, in conviction about a positive experience they had. And so when we have a product or service that has the capacity to provoke an emotional response, then suddenly we break out of the realm of that tiny handful, that 5, 6, 7% of the global population who have that whatever it is that you call this personality of mine, and that so many others out there who embrace the direct selling industry likewise have. You see, we want to broaden it beyond that. We want to go to all people out there, to the more subtle, the more reserved. It matters not how subtle and reserved we are. If it provokes an emotional response, we talk. That is a fact. And so first, provoke an emotional response. And so then as we go along, while this is a discussion of what's required to succeed generally in direct selling, network marketing, does the LevAi product have the capacity to provoke an emotional response? Yes. Every single time I see myself speaking Chinese or I see myself speaking French, I smile. Did that provoke an emotion? Yes, it did. If I send that to people who know very well that I don't speak those languages and they smile, did that provoke an emotional response? Yes, both among the one who delivered the product and the one who received the product. Does it likewise provoke an emotional response? If I've been frozen in fear, I've just been frozen in fear. Today I had a little emotional response because I was shown today how to use the lead file in the LevAi suite. And I didn't know. It's only been 5 days or 6, whatever it is, but somebody sent me a question about the leads and my automatic response. And I'm listening to myself. I'm watching myself and I'm listening because my automatic response was just flat wrong. My automatic response was to respond as though I knew the answer when in fact I didn't know the answer. Person said I did a lead search and I didn't even know you could search for a lead yet. Said I did a lead search and I came up with one candidate. And my response was, well, the leads haven't been turned on yet. My gut response, I'm Randy and I know. Well, that's dead wrong. The lead program is turned on and it works perfectly. And I had to learn how to use it today so that I could explain. And, I had an emotional response when right before this session, I found 3 or 4 fantastic candidates. It took me about 10 minutes to do it. And I was smiling as I sent them my first LevAi artificial intelligence generated introductory message that was written by LevAi in response to the candidate query where it learned all about them. And I looked at it with fascination and I smiled. Did that provoke an emotional response? Yes, it did. If the product or service has the capacity to provoke emotional response, that is the first indicator that it will broaden itself into the mass of humanity, the mass of society, and it will not be limited to this little tiny group of people. I'm that, the guys the guys who are out there knocking on doors selling encyclopedias when they're in college. There's that segment of population. Those are the segments that typically have done well in the direct selling industry. Suddenly, unless the product or service has the capacity to provoke emotional response. With the capacity to provoke emotional response, then everything becomes possible. So that's first. So I'm doing here two things: telling you first what the requirement is, and then expressing now that's a fact. That is the requirement. Must have a product or service that will provoke emotional response. The product or service must have these next requirements. It must have either there's this much of it and it gets consumed, it's all gone, and therefore it must be purchased again. In other words, we're not making one sale. Now I've got it. No, we're seeking to create an ongoing reoccurring income. Now, in the case of LevAi, it is not a product that gets used up. It is a subscription that gives you 30-day increments of use. And so does the product get used up? Yes, 1/30th of the product gets used up every day, such that 30 days later, the product has been consumed. And to continue consuming, what does one do? Re-up for the next 30 days by having your credit card on file. And so first, provoke an emotional response. Second, the product must get used up every 30 days or so. If the product doesn't get used up every 30 days or so, then you made a sale, which is fine. You got paid one time for it, which is fine. But this then lacks the magic that direct selling is of doing work once and getting paid again and again and again and again for it. And candidly, the subscription based model will do that better than anything ever has. I talked about this yesterday. How often do you change your phone service? Really? I mean, how many times in the last 5 years have you gone from Verizon to T-Mobile to AT&T? Any times, or are you still using the same provider you used 5 years ago? I'm willing to bet that if you've changed it in the last 5 years, it was once. And I would not be surprised to find out you've not changed your cell service provider in the last decade. Well, that's where we are, folks. We're creating that first foundational subscriber base of people who will continue using our product for long, long, long periods of time. The subscription model works better for creating a reoccurring income than any physical product could. That's the truth. This will create a stickier, better residual income. So what must the product do? Provoke emotional response. What it must do is must get consumed in a 30-day period of time so that it's not a direct sale, but it's the creation of an ongoing income stream. The product must have a degree of uniqueness in the marketplace. Well, here we are, folks. LevAi is the catalyst ingredient, and all these individual applications don't communicate one with another. And the product must be competitively priced. If those things exist, if those criteria exist in the product, then it can work over here if applied to this pattern of activities. If it doesn't meet those criteria, then it's not going to do that. Second, the second element required for success is a company that can execute. And so I tie the timing and the company conversations together here because why? Because so many years ago, you guys see my little line down there? So many years ago, I was shown for the first time this X and the Y axis. And I was told that all companies, no matter what the method of distribution, that all companies start here on the bottom left-hand corner of the graph, and that the vast majority of them finish there. They never get off the ground floor. They start here and they end here. I was taught and I've since observed that there are always those companies that just survive, but they don't thrive. They don't get big enough fast enough to make any money. And then every once in a while, a company comes along that has some uniquenesses to it that allow it to escape these traps, to neither have an early death or to be a low growth, slow growth company. Every once in a while, but not so very often, a company comes along whose product and service is right for the time. The market demands it, the market pulls it. And by the way, whenever an idea is right, the market will pull it. If the idea has to be pushed by the entrepreneur, it's not going very far and it's not going very high. If the market is pulling it towards it, saying, I must have this, evidenced by the fact in AI, 178,000 people in America used AI for the first time today. 178,000 people use it yesterday for the first time. 178,000 people use it tomorrow, day after day after day. The single biggest success I've had in my career so far was when, targeting the leading edge of the baby boom, I offered a product that would appeal to people who were turning 50 years old. Why? Because they were feeling their mortality and realizing that if they didn't lower their serum cholesterol, they were at risk of heart disease. And with the leading edge of the baby boom turning 50 years old, that began happening at the rate of 10,000 people per day. 10,000 people per day. That started happening in 1991, 92, and I was there with a cholesterol reduction product. Well, 10,000 people per day, that turned into a financial outcome for me of more than $25 million over the next decade. 10,000 people per day beginning to feel the mortality and wanting to use a product to lower their cholesterol and not have muscle wasting. Well, compare that to 178,000 people per day. See, that is why Sundar Pichai says this is more profound than fire or electricity or anything we've done in the past, because none of us have ever had the chance to be swimming in water so deep. You can float an incredibly big boat in water that is being added to at the rate of 170,000 people, 178,000 people a day. And so companies, they start on the bottom left-hand corner of the graph, and every once in a while, not so often, one makes it off the bottom left-hand corner. And there comes a time when it reaches a point a tipping point, often called in the direct selling industry a point of critical mass, where suddenly there are enough people having positive product experiences and enough people having positive income experiences that you start hearing about it. Some of you folks who live in the United States, think back to 2008, 2009, 2010, maybe 2007, and you started seeing Mercedes all over the place that had Monavie all over them, didn't you? Remember seeing that? Remember seeing the first one and wondering what it was? And then you remember that a year or two later, it seemed like you're seeing those things every place. I mean, they were black Mercedes, SL 550s, literally every corner, it looked like to me, because that company was going through the massive transition between small and big. You didn't see or hear much about it down here. Then it reached a critical mass, where at national conventions, there were a few hundred people getting new Mercedes, where I saw a couple of guys walk across the stage and pick up briefcases that had $1 million in cash in them. And that was their upfront bonus for having reached a rank in the compensation plan. Well, see, that is reflective. When that happens, then you know that the company is reaching the point where it's gone as far as it can go. When you start seeing these almost ridiculous over displays of success, trying to make the pot boil more and more and more, that will typically ring the bell at the top, and the company will either roll back down the bottom side or it will stabilize and then have some new point of impetus. But what do? We seek to involve ourselves as early, as close as we possibly can towards the genesis, to the point of origin. Why? Because all growth emanates from there, and growth is what multiplies and magnifies efforts. Peter Drucker said that so long ago. Growth is what multiplies and magnifies efforts. You cannot go fast in a vehicle that's going slow. You can't go forward in a vehicle that's going backwards. If you want to put a multiplier on your effort, put yourself into an environment where there is growth. Well, 178,000 people for the first time today utilized AI. There are 8 billion people on planet Earth. 3% of them use it today. Projections are that 5 years from now, it'll be 85 to 90%. Growth is what multiplies and magnifies efforts. Understand this as well. What if the market that I'm in is this size? That is the size of the market that I'm in. That's it. And here's Randy, I'm in it, and Tammy's in it. So Randy's in the market and Tammy's in the market. And clearly everybody knows that Tammy's better than Randy, and Tammy works harder than me. And so Tammy has 65% of the market and Randy has 35% of the market. That's the status quo. And then we see this darn Paul. Paul is over here and he's taking a look and he's saying, wow, look, Randy and Tammy, they live in nice neighborhoods. Randy and Tammy, they're driving nice cars. Randy and Tammy's kids go to the best private schools. I've seen Randy's wife driving around in a new Mercedes, and I just saw her buying a new Versace bag. Okay. Success is not hidden, success is evident. And I'm not talking about the flashy, flamboyant displays of wealth. The truth is that we don't become wealthy to hide it, we become wealthy to experience it. That's what happens. And so Paul is looking at Tammy and looking at Randy, and he says, oh my gosh, these guys are living a nice life. I want a part of it. Now imagine the market staying the exact same size, and Paul, he comes in here. Well, what's going to happen? Paul is going to get some. Where's it going to come from? Some from Randy and some from Tammy. That's what's called competition. And that's the way that it will be. This market, this success being experienced by those in the market will continue to draw people from outside in until the market has been chopped up to such a point that one more person coming in causes one to go out. It's reached its point of satiety. And so you see, in a market that is staying the same size, there will be no dramatic growth. All there will be is a reshuffling of the deck, but no real improvement in results for the overall. It can be worse than that. What if there's some outside force or pressure or dynamic that's causing the market to go down? There's less demand for it. How much demand is there in the marketplace today for people who do what I used to do for a living? There was a time when what I did was I personally managed stock portfolios for investors. There are so few individual stockbrokers today who do that. Why? Because computer algorithms can do it so much more effectively and efficiently. Literally, had I chosen to stay in the environment I was in, that market has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. My own income today would be smaller today than it was 30 years ago. And those people who were able to earn a living back in 91, 92, 93, they can't even earn a living at it anymore. They've been squeezed out. So if the market is staying the same size, then that creates competition, survival of the fittest, and there will be no tremendous breakthroughs. If the market is getting smaller, then you know kind of what that is. But what if there is some outside force or pressure or dynamic that's causing the market to get bigger? I mean, a lot bigger. What if the number of new people who want to use is dramatically greater than the number of people who are prepared to teach them how to use and to be the conduit to their use? Now you see those 178,000 people that will begin to use AI today. We don't have to take them away from somebody else. They're entering the arena for the first time. We get to access the user who is a first time user, as opposed to fighting with somebody else over the existing user. If we want to have tremendous growth, if we want to have a big financial breakthrough, then what we must have is a product or service that matters to people, that provokes emotional response, that is priced effectively, that is highly consumable. We must have a company that can execute. And we'll come back around to this thought of the company's execution in a moment. And then, if we want to have a financial breakthrough, we must operate in non competitive environments where we're able to gain market share that is just emerging. Not that we're taking market share from someone else. We are accessing new market share that occurs every day because 178,000 new people every day want to use a product like LevAi, and this is the superior product at the superior price. And so you see, there's a whole lot, not a little bit, there's a lot that goes into what makes the timing of a venture and a direct selling opportunity truly dynamic. And the reason that so few people have great breakthroughs is because there are so few people who come to understand what the variety. And why do so few people come to understand? Because there are so few knowledgeable teachers. Do you want to have greater market value than you can imagine? You really and truly, no kidding, you want to have the market seek you out? I mean, can you imagine the market has said that I'm worth over $1 million a year for 29 years in a row? How and why? Because there are so few people who have chosen to become knowledgeable, skillful, and retain relevance in the direct selling industry. You become knowledgeable, you become skillful, you learn, you become one of the reasons that the new version of what direct selling can be is so much bigger and better than the old version. You become one of the conduits to that bit of reality, and there is no limit to the successes you can have when we marry that concept, the direct selling business model, to the advent of what? To the global adoption of AI. And that, of course, is where this company comes. So I said that we need to find a way to mitigate the risks that are part and parcel of this. How do we do it? Well, we do it because here we have this umbrella. I don't draw umbrellas very well, but here we have this umbrella. Okay. There's all of our spikes. There we have our umbrella. And we, LevAi, are standing under the umbrella, under the imprimatur of Terry LaCour Enterprises. And so when a new company starts, that new company hasn't done business for 25 years. This is a new entity owned by and becoming part of an ecosystem, a family of companies owned by Terry LaCour. Exactly none of the risks that are typically a part and a parcel of it. Has done over $7 billion in revenue over the various years, has operated direct selling companies in almost every part of the marketplace successfully. Terry is a premier primetime operator. And his business building strategy is to do what? It is to identify concepts whose times are right and to then determine what is the very best method of distribution for that product offering, fit it into his companies there, and then hire the most skilled management. And so here, under the ownership and the auspices of LaCour Enterprises, we have my son Blake running the company. What you can anticipate, plan on, and get accustomed to is extraordinary execution, truth, honesty, transparency, a proper blend of entrepreneurship, and the right amount, the right touch of caution to make certain that we stay inside the parameters of risk that would allow us to have the outcomes we want and yet not subject ourselves to any unintended downsides in the future. And so a product that matters to people, a company that can execute, timing that is obvious and clear and that's beyond refute. Here we have a company that's been live for 5 days in a tiny part of the world, that goes live in the rest of the world, I'm guessing the day after tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. We're at the absolute genesis. We don't have any of the risk. There's no chance of an early death. We've already gone past that. There is literally no chance of a low growth, slow growth environment, not when one considers what the product offering is. And 178,000 people are beginning to use today for the very first time. We can earn that market share without taking it from anybody else. We can give people the unbelievably attractive, alluring, magical message of you can be first without suffering the risk, typically a part and a parcel of that. And we can do it by providing a product or service that people are clamoring for every day. They seek it, they want it. We're doing them a favor by providing. And that then brings us to the next element required for success. And that, of course, is the compensation plan. And a very quick conversation on what should a compensation plan do in the direct selling business. What exactly should it do? Well, the first thing that it must do is it must provoke the correct behaviors. And so, what are the behaviors that we would like to have provoked? We would like for the compensation plan to provoke rapid enrolling. Know and understand this, that there will be no large successful business. I don't know where my phone is here. There we go. See how much time I've kept you guys here already. There will be no large successful business in the absence of a rapid flow of new member applications. I'm talking about direct selling as an industry. There will be no large sustainable business in the absence of a rapid flow of new member applications. And so the first thing that the compensation plan in combination with the product must do is provoke, incent, and then make the logical outcome a rapid flow of new people coming in to use for the first time. Well, we have the amazing dynamic of having so many people who are coming into the world of AI, and we need only attract the tiniest percentage of that to have a bigger business than any of us have ever considered possible. And of course, my dream and vision, and the dream and vision of Blake and of Terry, is not to attract the tiny part of it, but to make our message evident to other people. That's where we need you. We need the message to get spread. How do we spread it? Through our team members. We need the message to spread that there is accessible AI, accessible to the masses, the best product, the best price, and because it's being delivered through a direct selling mechanism, that we can have financial results that are not simply tied to how the AI product helps our business, but that we can likewise be a conduit to other people's use and make it a business. And so in the compensation plan, the first thing that it must do is provoke a rapid flow of new member applications. The way that we do that is by paying a 50% combined acquisition bonus. Call this combined acquisition bonus plus month one unilevel. So the way that it works is this. If this is Randy and I call Joe, Joe, I say, I have observed your success in business. I have seen the unique ability you have to attract people to you. My belief, based on what I've seen, Joe, is that together I can show you how to leverage artificial intelligence to put a great big multiplier on the values you get from yourself. You can be everywhere at all times, no longer limited by time and space. This is magic for you, Joe. Let's chat. That'd be an example of me using a properly constructed script. Now I send that off with a bit of information added about LevAi, and that leads to conversation. Well, when I am the introductory factor, and it is my link that Joe clicks on, and he acquires the $50 package, the starter package, or the $100 package, not another $49.99, then what will happen? He will get paid an acquisition bonus. That acquisition bonus will be 30% of the acquisition price, 30%. And so that means it's 15. I'm sorry. Yeah, the acquisition bonus, 30%. And this over here is 30. That's what it is. So 30% of 15 is, or 30% of 50 is 15, and 30% of 100 is 30. And then in addition, one will receive the month one unilevel. Remember that we introduce a person to the business, they buy a product, we receive a direct sales commission. Then month number one, that person that you enroll is automatically placed on your generation one. No matter how many people you enroll, it is placed on your generation one. Every time they pay their monthly subscription, in this case, the monthly subscription is what? $99. In this case, the monthly subscription is $49. Each time anyone you've personally enrolled and maintain on generation one pays their monthly subscription, then you'll receive 20% of the value of that subscription. And so 20% of 50 is what? $10 if their monthly subscription is the basic pack. If they're buying the product, the larger pack, then the monthly is 20. And so one should look at this as an outsized payment, and one should not be placing people that you have enrolled into depth unless they intend to build in depth. If they intend to use the product for the sake of the product, you are a conduit to the use of the product. The person is going to use the product for their business, but they don't intend to use the product as a business, building in depth in the organization. If they're going to use the product for their business, but not as a business, keep them on generation one so that you always earn that 20%. Because we know what happens next. This is Gen 1. Then it goes to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And down here, this turns into what? Instead of 20%, this turns into 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Now, a leveraged 4%, if this person is building, I would way rather get paid 4% on a team of people than 20% on one. And so, if the person is going to build a team, then they should be constructed into one of your legs building in depth. If they are using the product for the sake of the product, they're using the product for their business, that should always be Gen 1. My intention, my personal intention, is to have 3,000 personally enrolled customers on Gen 1 by the time the dust settles. That's my target. By the way, I'm a target-oriented person. If I have a target, I just might hit it. But if I don't have a target, then I can expect the arrows just be flying all over the lot. And so I have a target. In fact, I got a bunch of targets. My target is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know the way that the unilevel plan pays. We get paid in various levels of depth in this leadership structure, depending on what our organization looks like in terms of width and quality of width. And so for me, because it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 legs to maximize the compensation plan, I would encourage everyone to pretend that said 6, because is it sometimes true that a leg disappears? Yes. Does it sometimes disappear even though it had nothing to do with you? Yes. And so I would not like anyone to be so subject to that risk. I would suggest that each one of you, when it says in the compensation plan that you can get paid in all of the depths with 5 legs wide, I would pretend that says 6. Everybody should be building 6 legs as an absolute minimum. Now let's think about this a little bit more. If we're getting paid on this depth, then every time we place an individual in that depth, we will go from earning 20% to 4%. You might wonder why you would ever do that. Well, you would do that once again, because if I place a person downline of this one, that could very well incent their broader behavior. It is because my income needs to be predicated upon the income successes of other people. And I want to be really careful the way that I say this, because there will be those of you for whom micro enterprise, home-based business entrepreneurship is new. Anything that's new is relatively more difficult. I've got calluses I've had for years. You're going to have to get blisters before you get those calluses. And so when I say something is easy, it is easier. When I say something easy, it's easy for me. Easy for me because of what I've done for the last 35 years. If you've not done for the last 35 years what I have, then some of those same things, which seem very easy to me, may not seem the tiniest bit easy to you. Understand that. That's part of the process. It was once not easy for me as well. The skill to do comes from the doing. The question is, does our belief, does our conviction, our certainty that what we're doing is fundamentally good, valid, and right, that what we're doing is good for other people, when our belief gets constructive enough, then suddenly we're no longer frozen in our tracks. And I will say that the LevAi solution itself will help more people do more correct things, and will cause countless people who would otherwise be frozen to be not frozen. We'll have a lot of mid-level, and even some relatively upper-level successes experienced among people who would have accomplished nothing in another direct selling company minus the product. The product itself incents the right behavior and puts some meat on the bones that haven't always been there. Okay, so the compensation plan. Remember the 5 elements required for success. A product that matters to people, we've talked about that. A company that can execute from a management standpoint, a capital standpoint, a system standpoint. Timing that is clear, that is obvious, that is beyond refute. And the one thing that I left out about the timing, it took me years to figure this part out. It is not the timing of the venture that is most important. It is your timing. It just doesn't matter what the timing of the venture is if it's a rotten time for you. And so each person just stand down for a moment and say, what is this really about for me? Is my desire to have the future outcome be significantly better than the past outcome? Is that desire bigger than the obstacles that I might encounter between here and there? If that desire is not yet greater than the obstacles that are predictable, then your timing is not yet right, and you should simply be a user of the product. That's the truth. There is no business success that will not require sacrifice, appropriate sacrifice. There is no business success that will not require that we push ourselves against the grinding wheel, gather new knowledge, develop new skills, refine character attributes. Your personal timing is going to dictate the amount of energy that you give to this more than anything else. I know that now to be true. So we got products that matters to people. A company that can execute, timing that's clear, that's obvious, that's beyond refute. You be merit must now be tied into that to enter and the correctness of. And then we come to the comp plan. And so once again, the comp plan provokes what behavior? Enroll. You get paid 50%. That's a lot. Next, remember I said that there will be no big business in the absence of a rapid flow of new member applications. There is a tremendous value to the fact that we offer nothing that costs more than $99. Most of my career, I've had entry points of between $1 and $2,000. Is it not obvious that we can have a more rapid flow of new members when the entry fee is $99 and you cannot buy what we sell someplace else for less than that? You can't buy what we sell for that amount. And so the product itself also has to do with the ease with which might set in motion a group of activities resulting in a rapid flow of new member applications. Well, now if we have a rapid flow of new member applications because of the product, the company, the timing, and the compensation plan, then the compensation plan will start to pay us. How does it pay us? You tell me how much money you want to make. Realize that everyone that you hold on generation one is going to pay you 20%. 20% of what? 20% of the subscription. So it's $49, it's going to be 10. If it's $100, it's going to be 20. And of course, those are rounded up by a dollar or whatever it is. So you tell me how much money you want to make. You want to make $100,000 per year. Well, $100,000 per year divided by 12, that's basically $9,000 per month. Take $9,000 per month, and then for a moment, assume that there was no 20% Gen 1 income, $9,000 divided by basically $4. How did you do that, Randy? How? Where did that come from? My experience so far, and this might change as we open internationally into some of the less developed economies. In fact, it will change. But in the United States right now, we have more than 90% of all members are at the $100 subscription price. And I think that's the right thing to do. I believe that that makes total sense. In fact, it's about 95%. And so you can kind of forget for right now, with the way the math looks, you can forget this earnings based on the $50 mark because we just don't have that right now. Now maybe next week that'll feel different as we get the international markets open. But right now you can basically take that $9,000, you can divide it by $4 because $4 is what you earn in the unilevel month after month. And so hold on one second. I'll tell you what that number is. I didn't figure it out before. Boom boom. Where is my calculator? Oops, sorry. And so if we take 9,000 and we divide that by 4, that tells us that we have to have 2,250 subscribers. That's what you got to have in this block of volume. If we assumed for a moment that there is no 20% income, then we have to have 2,250 subscribers in our block of volume in order to meet that need. Do the same thing with any income figure. It doesn't matter what the income figure is. Now, that is the worst that it can possibly be. Why is that the worst that it can possibly be? Because by definition, you will have some people up here. What if you decide, like me, that you're going to do a big job up here, that you're going to participate in all parts? For me, participating in all parts means that we meet the need of the consumer. I will not take one who intends to be a consumer and try to convince them to be a business builder and place them into the structure in depth. People who want to use the product for the sake of the product for their business and for their life, as opposed to wanting to use LevAi as a business, those people will be held on generation one. Now, let's forget for a moment the idea of 3,000. Let's just boil it down to something much more easy to understand. 100 is for me really easy to understand. In fact, check with me in 30 days. It will not be 30 days from now before I have 100 personally enrolled members who are using the product for the sake of the product. They're using it in their business. They're not using it as a business. And so 100 of those times $20 is what? Well, that's $2,000. And so if my objective was to make 9,000, then I can come down here into my block of volume and I can take, okay, so now I only need to divide that $7,000 by 4 because I am going to do this. I am going to do this. Right? I'm going to, not something that I might do. It's not something I'm thinking about doing. And so now if that's the case, then what I can do is I can take those 7,000, I can divide it by 4. And so now I have to have 1,750 people in here because I have already made the decision that I'm going to do this. I will have the 100 up here way before I have the 1,750 here. Why? Because this is something that I can control. I cannot control the behaviors of other people down here. This will happen sooner than this. And so you figure out the number, then you determine how many people is going to be the target for you on Gen 1. That then you subtract from the amount you need to divide by $4. Now come down here. What else happens? What else happens is we know that we have an infinity payout, which extends this block of volume beneath the 8th generation. And it continues it, it extends it based upon what? Based upon what is your rank, and therefore what is your infinity payout. Now, in my own case, 4% infinity payout, that's a mandate. That's not an option. That's something that will happen. Because why? Because I will have 5 legs that each have $20,000 in business. Now, when will that happen? I don't know. Will it happen this week? It might, but I don't know. Why? Because we're just barely launching the company. I'm preparing myself for the idea that this is going to take me 2 or 3 months to have occur. But there's a 100% chance. We're going to open up our international markets tomorrow or the next day. When we open international markets, then I'll find out what percentage of credit cards run immediately, what percentage of people act, what percentage of people actually join the business, and what percentage of people were just making it as a lottery, what percentage made a business decision, and what percent simply acted on you can be first and it didn't cost me anything. I don't know the answer to that. We'll find out the answer over the course of the next 3 or 4 days. And so it might be that the day after tomorrow, I've got these 5 legs in place, these 6, excuse me, that have all got $20,000 in volume. That would then result in me having the ability to continue to get paid indefinitely. Already, I can tell you when I look at my compensation screen, I already earn more income in infinity payout than I do in unilevel payout. Already, that's true today, right now, as we speak, 5 days into it. And so that then gives me the ability to forecast further. Since I right now earn just a little bit more in infinity payout, and this is the very earliest model, we're talking about a few days here, right? And I will always share with you the exact facts. And if anybody would ask, Randy, would you mind just logging in your back office and validating for me, showing your commission reports that validate what you're saying? The answer is always yes with me. The truth is the truth, and it's good enough. Complete, total transparency. The truth is easy to remember. You can always know if you ask me, yes, unless I am under some non-disclosure agreement, unless I've said, Randy, unless someone has said, Randy, hold this in confidence. Those are things that I will always honor. Otherwise, I'm about the most fully disclosed person you'll ever see. And so now in my case, because I am already experiencing in these earliest days, I am already experiencing that I'm earning a little bit more money in infinity than I'm earning up here, then I can once again extrapolate and I can come up here and say, instead of 1750, I right now I'm getting about 60% of my income down here, or at least I'm earning more down here than up here. It's not 60% of income because some of my income is direct sales commissions. That's a lot right now. Some of the income is check match. That's also ramping up. But I can come down here and I can then say, okay, what I've really got to have is about 800 accounts in my unilevel, because I know that 800 accounts in my unilevel will produce about 900 accounts in infinity. That's my existing model right now. That's what it looks like right now, 5 days in. And so now I can reduce this figure further. If I want to make my $9,000 a month, I need to engage in a series of activities, which result in me having 800 subscriptions in my unilevel. And then I can take it one more step. How do I take it one more step? I take it one more step by looking at check match. And right now, though it's in the very earliest week, my check match is going at about the same rate as this infinity payout. And so I can know that if I have 800 accounts here, 800 subscriptions in the unilevel. If I have my 100 here, 800 in the unilevel, that will produce 900 in infinity. So far, that's the exact model what it looks like right now, and I'll update it for you whenever you ask me to. And then I will know that I've got a buffer. And the buffer is what? The buffer is check match. I'm not adding it into the math. My buffer is check match. I right now am receiving check match that is just about equal to here, My infinity payout and my check match are both slightly bigger than the unilevel payout. The biggest payout of all so far, not surprisingly, is the transaction payout. Why? Because I personally enrolled more than 140 people. And so right now, income source number one is what? It is direct sales commission. That will only be true this month. That will never be true again, because I will never again in a month enroll 140 people in all likelihood. Probably not. That was all I had to do. I had no group to support. I had no one to help. I had no one to teach, coach, or train. All I had to do is recruit. And so it's not likely that I will enroll 140 people a month going forward. That number will go down. But that number will go down. It'll be replaced by this number. This number will become, and this one is a reoccurring number. Wouldn't I far rather have a reoccurring number than I would have the one-time number of that direct sales commission? And so it starts with direct sales commission. I will replace that direct sales commission with Gen 1, that 20%. How will I do it? Those people who want to be just customers, users of the product for their business, as opposed to using LevAi for a business, they go on Gen 1. Those using LevAi for a business, I construct leadership groups. And for me, once these 6 legs are all running, once all 6 have someone beneath the unilevel who is at least at the 3rd leadership rank, and I apologize, I brain faded it, but the one that goes past director, not director, but when I have in any leg, innovative director, I believe is what it's called, when I have one innovative director in each leg at the bottom of the payout or the first infinity spot beneath the 9 levels, that is when I will start the next 6. And so what I will have is a front line that is populated with people who are using it for their business, and it will ultimately go. I will keep doing what I'm doing until there are 3,000 people up there. That's what will happen. And it won't matter how long it takes. That is what will happen. And then I will continue to build these blocks of 6, not blocks of 5. When I have an innovative director beneath payout in each one of those 6 legs, that is when it would be wise to do it again 6 more times. And then at about that time, then I will pause and reflect and say, where do we go from here based on this new set of knowledge? And so I have here taught you comp plan concepts and components and how they fit into the overall business building scheme. What are the elements required for success? The elements are a product or service that matters to people, a product or service which will run out every 30 days, such that it creates reoccurring income, not just one-time transaction income. A product or service that provokes emotional response so that we are not limited to that handful of catalyst personalities who are used to contacting other people and drawing them towards them. A product or service which cannot be replicated in the marketplace for less money. Does LevAi meet that requirement? Yes, plus, 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 times 10 and more. So the first element required for success, a product or service that matters to people, and we got that. Second, a company that can execute. What do we have? The unique combination of Terry LaCour, and happily enough, he has hired Blake Schrader, and of course, we have all of the other BNS. I don't like that. BS doesn't sound like Blake Neil Schrader. By the way, the exact same initials as Bosco Nathaniel Schrader. That was a tip of the hat to Blake some number of years ago. A product or service that matters to people and meets all those requirements that I've described. A company that can execute. Third, timing that is clear, that is obvious, that is beyond refute. Every part of this timing is clear, is obvious, is beyond refute, except your timing. I have no idea. That will be the catalyst for you. The fourth thing, a compensation plan which provokes correct behaviors, properly rewards those behaviors, which has an ability, has the ability people, attracts people who would say no to what network marketing has historically been. Though it's been fantastic for me, the vast majority of planet Earth has chosen to opt out of that method of distribution. There must be something about the way the compensation plan is administered that it causes people who have typically been so full of fear about direct selling to say, I get it, I can see myself there. And that's why I love the fact that one need not decide to become a team builder. You never have to recruit a darn person. You can make a living at this by delivering the product. You can make a great big living. There'll be people who have thousands of Gen 1 members, thousands. Why? Because this is bigger than fire, electricity, or anything we've done in the past. This is not limited to people who want to build secondary businesses. This is all people who have a business and want to use it. And so the compensation plan meets those people where they are. The compensation plan also will reward those of you who, like me, have invested your careers in building big network marketing organizations. This will reward you more lucratively than anything ever has. Watch it play its way out. I'm quite confident of this. I know and understand comp plans at a very, very high level. Product, company, timing, comp plan. And then finally, we come down here to what? You're experiencing it right now, training and support. Here's the reality, folks. None of you could hire me. I'm not available for hire, and you couldn't afford me. That's the truth. But what if I was willing to invest myself completely and totally in your business and not charge you a darn thing for it? Because when I'm building your business, I'm building mine. That is one of the reasons that the fundamental principles which govern direct selling are superior to those which govern conventional business. Whoops, we're not competing with each other. We're cooperating with each other. We're not building opposing teams. We are building a team. We're not building opposing teams. We're building a team that is inviting and comfortable and embracing of all. What we seek to do is help you become more. What I've come to experience and know in my life is that if all people do is make money, then someday they'll wander away anyway. But it's if they make money and they feel inclusive in something. If they make money, they feel inclusive and they are experiencing things outside of money. They're developing new relationship skills, new communication skills. They're developing more poise, more greater self-confidence, more correct self-esteem. When a person is in the process of becoming more, they're more happy. And if they're more happy and they're making more money, they're with us for life. And so we seek to invest ourselves. The compensation plan provokes the behaviors, but it's the leadership group that enacts those behaviors. And so it is then training and support. And what I'll simply tell you is this, that I'm frequently referred to now as a leader. What I really am is probably the most effective follower you'll ever run into. And I'm now going to very quickly recap those 10 steps to getting started correctly. And it will be fast because I know our time is torn up here. We're already together for more than an hour. But what we ultimately seek to do is add a number 6 down here, and that being the creation of the very finest leadership structure. For an hour, I'm going to not go into depth with any of these steps that are required to see. I'm just going to tell you what they are. The first step is not just to enroll. Okay, most of you have enrolled. Perhaps some of you have not, but the step is to enroll. And it's not just to enroll, but it is to enroll and then create what I call a mental and emotional barrier of exit, such that whenever something gets hard, that instead of retreating from it, that you push against it. If we were to start any other business, if you and I thought earlier, don't know if you're still here or not, my friend Scotty Kufis is here. If Scotty and I were to start a partnership and open a Subway franchise, he'd put up a couple hundred grand, I'd put up a couple hundred grand. If 3 months into it, our business is bad, I don't know about Scotty, but I'll tell you what I would not do is I would not quit. I've got a couple hundred grand spent here. And wait a minute, other people who are doing what I'm trying to do, they're making money at it. So what do I need to do differently? That's what happens in any other business. If it's not working yet, what do I need to do differently? In a business like ours, where there was no financial hook to get you in, there's no financial hook to keep you from walking out the door. And so, as opposed to what have I got to do differently so I can succeed, the vast majority of people, if the money doesn't fall off the trees overnight, they just walk away. And so, we must create a mental and emotional barrier of exit that is more important than any obstacle you might run into. In my own case, I'm 68 years old in 2 weeks. I have an 8-year-old little boy. I have an obligation to fund his future. And of course, Samantha doesn't need me. She's a talented, capable woman. She can succeed on her own. But if she chooses to be involved in business in my absence one day, and she's 30 years younger than me, if she chooses to be in business in my absence one day, I want that to be a choice made by her desire for success, entrepreneurship. She wants fun. I don't want her to ever have to spend a moment working to make money. That is my mental and emotional barrier of exit, and that's why I work. There is no figure that will make me more confident and more secure. I will simply continue working, scraping money off the table, investing it conservatively and wisely to take care of them in my ultimate absence. That's my mental and emotional barrier of exit. What's yours? Write it down, print it out, and talk about it every day until such time as you, like me, are doing new member orientations every day. Now, if I spend that long talking about all 10 steps, we'll be here till tomorrow, and we're not going to do that. Second, this one I'm not sure, this may wind up being eliminated because step number 2 for me has always been to place an appropriate initial order. Here we only have 50 or 99. I mean, that's it. And so there's not a whole lot of discussion. There's no skill. There's not much that needs to be described. It's simply this, folks. If you could afford the 99, that's what you should do because it's better. It's better and it's better value. If $99 is out of your financial comfort zone right now, then stop and think about this. How old are you? What have you done in your life? What have your experiences been? Is it okay for you that at this stage of your life that $99 is a burden? If that's okay, you're probably not the person I want to be talking to right now. If it's okay with you that $99 is a problem, that by itself is a problem. Let it be that this is the last time in your life that 99 bucks is even a consideration for you. But if it is right now, then you start down here where you belong. Let us help you make some money and then upgrade as soon as you can. Step number 3 is to make a 12-month runway. And this is critically important, folks. This will be easier than things that I have done in the past. This will be easier than things that you've done in the past. Easier, not easy. I fly airplanes, and every airplane, depending on the elevation of the field of the airport, the aerodrome, and depending on atmospheric conditions, every airplane will have a published runway length that it must have to get off the ground. There is no business that would have a published runway length to get off the ground of 30 days. That doesn't exist. A 12-month runway is just barely, barely the threshold of anything that could be logical. And so the very moment this company makes a 12-month subscription available, upgrade to the 12-month subscription. Don't pay monthly. The second it makes a 12-month subscription available, pay the 12 months in advance and then forget about it. In the meantime, just understand this. The monthly maintenance, that $50 or $99 per month, that is not an option. That is a mandate. That is your overhead. That's your overhead. Every business has overhead. If we open a restaurant and we don't pay our rent, well, the landlord locks us out and we're out of business. We must pay our overhead. If we don't buy raw food for our chef to cook, we're out of business. If we don't pay our chef, we're out of business. If we don't pay our light bill, we're out of business, and on it goes. Every business has overhead. In our case, the overhead is a maximum of $99 per month. But understand that if you don't pay it, you're out of business. It's not an option, it's a mandate. If you cannot in the recesses of your being, if you cannot commit now to 12 months, do yourself a favor and call this a hobby, but don't consider it to be a business, because your airplane is not going to get off the ground in less than 12 months. Just know that. Even if you start making some money, the leadership organization will not have been developed such that if you stop pushing the wheel, it would continue. Folks, this is a 12-month commitment as an absolute dead bare minimum. And if you're not able to make that commitment, then understand it is a hobby. Enjoy it, have fun with it, but don't expect to make money out of it. The 4th step is to do a complete back office review. And so just today, I reminded myself that I had not done a complete back office review such that I understood why. Because when somebody said, Randy, where do I find the leads program? My response was, it's not turned on yet. Well, that's not true. It is in the back office. And it reminded me of the importance of a back office review, because I had not done a back office review. Then my son Blake, who is the president of the company, what did he wind up being? He wound up being my personal customer service agent, delivering information to me which he should never have had to deliver. I took Blake out of doing that which he should be doing to be a customer service agent for me, which he should never be doing. Why? Because I did not do a complete back office review. And so I give the assignment to do a complete back office review. No one understand it. No one understand it completely. Now, I'll give myself a buy. Why? Because the way that I teach it is, if someone were to contact me and ask for information that's in the back office, then I would first pause and I would smile and I'd say, what a fantastic question. Thank you for asking it. And let me show you, not tell you, let me show you where you can find it in your back office. Because in so doing, I've now eliminated the need to show again. If I simply send the link, I didn't solve the problem, did I? I exacerbated the problem, because now I've taught that person to contact me again with the next similar question. I answer the question by showing them where the answer is for the first 30 days. 30 days in, I get that same query. Hey, where can I find this in the back office? Where can I find the lead program? Or the lead program doesn't work right. That's what I got today. The lead program doesn't work right. No, it works perfectly. If one does a back office review, then you'll understand how it works. But instead of that, I wound up imposing upon Blake. He had to be my personal customer service agent. I don't want to be one, neither do you. By the time 30 days has gone by, you must know everything in that back office such that you can guide anyone to it in a matter of minutes. Step number 5 is to build belief. Here we have my balance beam. And let's contemplate and consider what would be the potential positives that happen in the first 30 days. What are the predictable negatives that happen in the first 30 days? And if this balance beam is tilted towards the negative, then all the work that I did to attract that candidate, to foster the relationship, to bring the candidate into the business, to teach him or her what to do, all of that just became an expenditure of time instead of an investment of time because I let the balance beam tilt to the negative. And so over here, what are the predictable positives? Positive product experience. Those have been my predictable positives throughout the entire period of time that I've been delivering something person was going to put on their skin or put in their mouth. Today, we offer a better product than I've ever offered, but this product will not act on its own. We're delivering accessible artificial intelligence. That means it's as easy as it can be. But you are here talking to a guy that is communicating with you on a whiteboard. That tells you all you need to know about my technological abilities. And the fact is that I have had to be taught. I have had to be taught. Other people will have to be taught. It's only taken 3 days. That's a very short learning curve. I am very capable today. I can do my business better today because of AI than I could do my business 4 days ago after having been at it for 35 years. That is the truth. But I had to be taught. This product is not going to teach itself. It's not going to teach you how to use it. If you want your organization to expand and expand quickly, let it be that you're gathering together a group of people who are all eligible to teach the very most basic things. And yes, it's getting easier now. Today we have the video tutorials that we didn't have 3 days ago. 3 days ago, I wouldn't have needed to call upon Blake. Or today I wouldn't have needed to if I'd watched those tutorials. Have you watched them? If so, you'll not need to call upon. But what are the predictable positives? It's a positive product experience to the extent that one is taught how to use it. Minus it, that can turn into a potential negative. That positive product experience, if we teach them how to use it, positive. If we don't, it could be negative because they're frustrated. Had probably more people frustrated the first day than they had positive. Now that won't happen anymore because of the tutorials, but we just experienced it, didn't we? We know exactly what happens. And so, what else is a predictable positive? In our case, a predictable positive will be leadership availability because I'm available to you all of you, irrespective of who brought you to the party. I personally, individually, am available to you. And I will work very, very hard to develop a leadership structure so that you have a lot of people who are available to you and so that you someday become available to others as part of that leadership structure. So that's a predictable positive. What are the predictable negatives? What are they? First great candidate says no. Oh, no. And that puts some weight on the negative side of the scale. Today, I had a text exchange this today or last night with one of the really good guys in my business. And he told me that one of his greatest candidates, I mean, a person that a couple of days ago he thought was going to take him to the top. And today they're ghosting him. Well, that's a negative, isn't it? That's a negative. And there's always a lesson there. What is the lesson? We must remain completely emotionally detached from decisions that other people make. If we allow ourselves to get emotionally attached to decisions other people make, get ready to live a life of extreme peaks and valleys and get ready for it to become exhausting and no fun. Learn instead to be completely unemotional in the decisions other people make. But nevertheless, I mean, this is a guy that was going to have 15,000 members next week, and suddenly he doesn't answer the phone. Well, that's a little bit of a negative, isn't it? What if you happen to be among those who enrolled 50% of your people in a nation that you just found out company has restrictions because of trade sanctions, because of wars and so on. And now 100 people that you thought were going to be with you the first day, none of them are going to be. Well, that's a potential negative, isn't it? What if you discovered, oh my gosh, I thought crypto was going to be available tomorrow when the company goes live internationally, and tomorrow you're going to get told that crypto is going to take another week. Oh my gosh, well, that's a potential negative. The point is that we have all of these potential negatives, and we only have one potential positive. And by the way, how much money are you making the first week? Well, some, but not much. And so we have all of these potential negatives, folks. If we allow the balance beam to be 1 degree to the negative side, then you can count on exactly zero productivity. Level, balance beam is level in terms of belief. And I'm talking about organizationally, trying to do it organizationally. Also, then broken down to each individual. But if it is 1 degree negative, exactly nothing productive is going to happen. If it is even, just exactly even, progress will be slow, it will be halting, and it will be hard. If, on the other hand, we can keep the positive balance, then we can generate momentum. The difference in momentum and a complete lack of productivity can be as little as 2 or 3 percentage points on this balance beam. That is the truth. And so, because that's true at step number 5, I imagine myself every day just dropping little teeny 1 gram weights into the positive side. How do I do that? By giving you an assignment at step 5 to watch 1 video per day every day. No more than 20 minutes in total if you're watching 3 or 4. So I talk about dilating one's soul, watching the winner of Britain's Got Talent, dilating one's soul, watching Zenyatta win 19 races in a row, dilating one's soul, watching Secretariat do what nobody's ever done, dilating one's soul. Folks, if any of you have ever hit a golf ball in your life, you want to dilate your soul, go to the 1986 Masters and watch the entire Jack Nicklaus back nine, and you will see one human being do that which is seemingly impossible in light of all the incredible Tiger Woods moments that we see, and they are incredible. If you watch in total the 1986 Masters back nine of Jack Nicklaus, I'm telling you, folks, and please don't think I'm sacrilegious, that is as close to the way God would play golf as is imaginable. Absolutely stunning. And it brings to light what is possible when a person eliminates the self defeating attitudes, behaviors. Now, of course, Jack Nicklaus was blessed with a talent set that is highly, highly, highly unusual. But I promise you, there are other people on earth whose talents are equal to or greater than his were at his peak. What was different? It was his commitment, it was his tenacity, it was his willingness. Willingness, folks. And so now let's consider and contemplate these first 5 proposals. What is the talent or skill that is required to enroll and create a mental and emotional barrier of exit to print it out and read it aloud every day for the foreseeable future? Talent or skill? Nothing. What is required? A little bit of knowledge and willingness. How much talent or skill is required to place whatever is for you the appropriate initial order? Well, exactly none. What is required? Knowledge and willingness. What talent or skill is required to just make an absolute decision? It is not an option, it is mandate. This is 12 months. What I'm going to do for the next 12 months is measure behaviors, because behaviors are going to dictate outcome. But I'm not going to measure the outcome for 12 months. How much talent or skill does it take to do that? None. What does it take? Knowledge and willingness. How much talent or skill does it take to do a complete total back office review such that you can become an effective conduit to the knowledge therein to other people? Exactly none. What is required? Knowledge and willingness. How much talent or skill is required to watch 1 or 2 videos every day to keep the balance on the positive side? A video about the direct selling industry, a video about our compensation plan, a video about our product offering, a video about the ongoing global adoption of AI, a video about anything, any audio, any word that came out of Jim Rohn's mouth is the word that would make you more. Well, are we willing? See, that's all it takes. It takes knowledge of the concept and willingness to act upon the concept. So these first foundational attributes or first foundational steps, these require no talent or skill, they require knowledge and willingness. Now we come to the action items. Step number 6 is to do what? It is to create a preliminary candidate list. Preliminary candidate list. And what I ask for is that you identify a handful of people, 8, 10, 12, that's all it takes. Handful, 8, 10, 12 of people that you know will encourage you. That's all. They'll encourage you. And invite those 8 or 10 or 12 into your first private small group presentation. See, think about this for a moment. I'm going to take a quick glance here. We have now 69 people here. Okay. So if these 69, now I'm contemplating tonight's business presentation that will happen tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern. These 69 people, do you think any of these 69 will have 7 personally invited guests there? I don't. Do you think any of the 69 will have 5 personally invited guests there? Well, if so, we'd have 350 people on tonight, very close to that. No, what will happen instead is, because it is a group presentation that didn't have any requirement for you to populate it, then you may or may not show up there yourself. And you may or may not have a candidate with you. But just by showing up, you will be a winner to some degree. But will that grow your business? No, it'll grow you, but it won't grow your business. And that's kind of what will happen tonight. These 69 people, most of you 69 will be there. Some of you 69 will have a candidate or two, most will not. And that's what it'll be. And so what we'll do tonight is we will support our business, but we won't really grow it. Now, what if on the other hand, these 69 all said, you know what, I'm going to invite my 6 or 8 or 10 people that are low hanging fruit. These are people who know me, trust me, respect me. They'll encourage me, they'll support me. And I'm going to invite them onto a private launch session for my organization, each of you individually. 69 people who each invited 10 with the anticipation of having 7 show up. Suddenly we've got 430 new people hearing the message the same night that 7 people would hear the message. Folks, understand this. There is no luck and there is no guesswork. You cannot simply be a bringer. You cannot simply show up once in a while on those evening Zooms or noon Zooms and every once in a while bring somebody with you and really grow. That is the way of your participating in someone else's business. If you want to have a breakthrough financial experience, you must launch your business. The way for you to launch your business is to contact me or some other member of the Upline Leadership Group and say, I need to schedule my first private small group launch event. When can you help me do it? And you pick one of us who's able to help, and one of us will be there to help. That's the truth. And now suddenly, if we have these 69 people who each had 7 people do that between now and Friday, 430 new people see the business. Out of that 430, you would have something so staggeringly close to 400 new applications, 400 new opportunities for volume, 400 new direct sales commissions, 400 new unilevel payouts, 400 new infinities, 400 new check matches. And that's what that leads to. That leads to more people wanting to do the same thing next week. Understand that that which exists will tend to persist. And so right now, what exists? Right now, we show up at 1 or 2 of the Zooms per week. We bring 1 or 2 people with us per week. That exists today, and that is what will persist unless we shock the system. How about if these 69 people shock the system? Create a preliminary candidate list of 6, 8, 10 people. Let us help you craft a script to invite them to your private launch session. Do your private launch session between now and Saturday night. You can launch a business between now and then. If you keep doing what you're doing right now, you will not launch a business between now and the weekend. If you alter your behaviors a tiny bit in light of what I'm describing to you right now, you can launch a business between now and the weekend. Step number 7, and by the way, it is an activity to write down a list of names. It is a skill to learn to so live our lives so that our candidate list is constantly growing in front of us. I am already experiencing the magic of what LevAi can do for that. And today, again, what am I talking about? I'm talking about basic business building principles that have been a part of my career forever. Tomorrow, I'll no doubt do another training, and I will shift my gear back over towards the LevAi tool suite, showing you how to use the tool for the business. But right now, what I want is to get people engaged in the behaviors that have created $5 billion in sales in my career. If we put those behaviors onto this product idea, this moment in time in this compensation plan, this can create a 100 times. Notice I've done $5 billion. I just said this can create a 100 times, and it can on the way to it creating 1,000 times if we learn how to apply direct selling principles to the LevAi AI opportunity. Step number 7 is to master the art of the invitation. That means that we know what to say and what not to say so that our candidate opens their eyes, their ears, and their hearts to possibility. When we master the art of the invitation, that means that we utilize a properly constructed script to let a tool talk. And guess what helps with that so incredibly? It is LevAi. Step number 8 is learning how to present the business in a fashion that can duplicate. How do you propose to learn how to do it? You know how you'll learn? It's surprising how little one learns by logging into those noon or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock sessions. Why? Because you may or may not have a candidate on it. You've probably seen it 25 times before. And so you're wandering around in your underwear and paying a little bit of attention. How much progress could we expect? Do you suppose you would learn more if it were your 7 invited guests? It was just you, your 7 guests, and a member of the leadership that were presenting the business to them. Would you not be more dialed into it? The answer is 100%. It's not like there's a subtle shift in outcome. You see, most of what I do is not dramatically different from what other people do. Most of what I do is very subtly different from what other people do. But the combination of these subtle differences results in a tremendous, absolutely magnificent change in outcome between what I was taught to do. Remember, that's the key. I didn't dream this up. I didn't figure it out. And to the very best of my knowledge, I've never had a single unique thought in my life. What I do is I execute other people's ideas. Nathan Ricks taught me a 10-step process 35 years ago. I've executed that process for the last 35 years and produced $50 million in income. That is the truth. I execute ideas that have been proven to work by other people. And only when I have followed that path so completely for so long that it's become evident to me and to other people that I am better at that process than the person who taught me the process. At that point, that's when I break around and break my own trade. I'll teach you how to present the business by presenting it with you on your behalf in your private small group presentations. Step number 9 is to learn how to do new member orientations in a way that gives every new participant the greatest possible chance to do what I call win the race to profitability. That means to get the money back that it costs to get started before the credit card bill comes due. This 10 steps that I'm describing to you in conjunction with the ladder of escalation is the information that one should receive in every new member orientation. And step number 10 is to take action. There are several action items. Create a mental and emotional barrier of exit, write it out, start reading it aloud every day. It is to determine what is your appropriate package. It is to say, no matter what else happens, no matter what else happens, the last expense that can get cut is my subscription, because this is my way out. This is what will make it so that I never again have to say $100 is too much. This is inviolable. This is a sum certain, a 12-month minimum runway. Start today searching through every single part of both the tool suite and the back office so that you could teach it tomorrow. And step number 10, engage in a series of behaviors that keep the positive weight slightly greater than the negative weight. If the positive weight is greater, then you will find that new members have plenty of candidates to talk about. If the negative weight is greater, there are no candidates. Create a preliminary candidate list and recognize it's an activity to write down a list of names. It's a skill to live our lives in such a way that our candidate's always moving towards us. That's a process, not an event. Mastering the art of the invitation, likewise a process, not an event. I'll have further teachings and trainings on that. Learning to present the business. Well, I've been teaching you how to present the business each day for the last 35 days, doing 2 presentations a day, 7 days a week, recording them, storing them, showing you as you've watched my own evolution. The very first presentations I made were in no way similar to the more recent ones. You have to do the same. The skill to do comes from the doing. Finding out what parts of the message that are important to me that are not especially important to other people and leaving it out of the dialogue. Finding out what are the parts of the presentation that may not have really mattered to me, but it's what most people want to hear, adding those to dialogue. Constantly course correcting, getting closer and closer back to the center line. I have taught you in the last 5 weeks how I learn. I learn by doing. The way I present the business today is dramatically different than it was 5 weeks ago. That will be the same for you as well. Learn to present the business by presenting the business. I will teach you how by presenting it with you and on your behalf. When I say I'm reflecting, I'm now relating to myself as part of a leadership group. Many of us willing to do likewise. I have just taught you how to do a shell new member orientation. Why could it not be an actual one? Because a real new member orientation is you, your sponsor, a member of the upline, and it's a conversation, not a presentation, because it's based upon what you want to accomplish in your life experience. And then 10, 9, 10 is to take all these action items. Okay, you guys have been really patient with me, stuck around with me for an hour and a half. What is the ladder of escalation? This is the method of operation. This is what we do. Having taken the 10 steps, what do we do? First rung on the ladder of escalation, we identify a candidate and we invite that candidate utilizing a properly constructed script to let a tool talk using our LevAi solution. And when I send that invitation, it is something so simple. It goes like this. Paul, I've appreciated your friendship over the years. I've appreciated your entrepreneurship. Who knows, but I think that we are now on the cusp of the single greatest opportunity of our life as the global adoption of artificial intelligence is upon us. Paul, please take a look at the 90-second video clip below, and then let's you and I talk. Please let me know if you'd like to continue the conversation. Now, that last statement, please let me know if you'd like to continue the conversation. That was important because that means I just taught Paul something important. Remember, every single thing that we do is teaching somebody else what they must do. I just taught Paul, you don't have to chase people. Telling him that, I also told him you don't have to chase anybody. Now, in my own experience, when I invite utilizing a properly constructed script, has a short video clip. I told him it's 90 seconds. It'll tell you the information you have to have. I've let him know that I'm not going to chase him. The vast majority, in my case, it is more than 75% of the people to whom I send that outreach, they do what I call hit the ball back across the net. Now, as soon as they hit the ball back across the net and say, yes, I want to know more. And by the way, was it always 75%? No, it was once 10%. The skill to do comes from the doing. And so the more I do it, the better I get at it, and the more the numbers go up. That'll be true for you as well. Next, when the person says, yes, I want to know more, now I send a recorded link. The recorded link is one of the 25 or 30-minute business presentations. As soon as a person, as I describe it, hits the ball back across the net one time, yes, Randy, I want to know more. As soon as they say, yes, I want to know more, I now know there's a 100% chance they're going to join me. Are they joining me today, tomorrow, next month, next year? That I don't know. What I do know, they received the message, it found fertile soil, they are looking, they're going to join me. I don't know when because they have their own evaluation process, which may be shorter than mine. It may be longer than mine. It doesn't matter. It's their process, not mine. Now I send the complete link. Now it's completely different. They ask for information. Now I know they're going to join me. And because I know, I become completely assumptive. Fantastic. I'm sending now a more complete business presentation. Please watch the clip. And our next step will be for you and I to conduct a new member orientation so that I can teach you not just what it is, but what we'll do together to become successful. Completely, totally assumptive. And then what do I do? Then I guide him through the 10 steps. Why? Why do I do it that way? Because when I was first introduced to the direct selling industry, all I heard was a steady dose of what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is. I heard no dialogue whatsoever about how to do it, and it wasn't actionable. When I heard what it is, product, company, timing, comp plan, training, and support. Those are the elements required for success. And what do we seek to do? Engage in a proved and predictable pattern of activities, which results in the creation of an ever expanding and potentially limitless web of consumers, some internal inside the web, some external people who don't join the business, but who use it for their business. We earn royalties in either case. So, what is it? Well, there's 5 elements required for success. There is a 10-step process, which results in the creation of a consuming web. We earn royalties on that web. And how exactly do we act upon the 10 steps? We have a daily mechanism of operation. We invite utilizing a properly constructed script to let a tool talk, which leads to a review of more detailed information, which leads to a new member orientation. And somewhere along the way, each person arrives at what I've long described as their point of logical conclusion. Some people immediately upon the first introduction, that sounds good to me, Randy. How do I start? Not many. Some people, 25%, they have a basic business presentation. This is what I'm looking for. I'm ready to start. Everybody, by the time I go here, 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 by the time I've completed a new member orientation, everyone is enrolled. Everybody, because now they know what it is and they know what to do, and they can see and understand that their life experience. Oh my gosh, I just spilled water again. All my treasures. I make a mess of my treasures. Hold it. I got to clean this up, folks. Oh boy. Now, I used to say always that it looks easy to be me. And Samantha's reminded me that it doesn't look easy to be me to anybody else. So it doesn't. Oh boy, ready. But it's all good. Because why? Because while I may have just ruined one trophy from another chapter of my life, I'm in the process of creating new trophies for this new chapter in my life, which is going to be the best one yet for me, and I hope for all of you. And so, lost myself there. 5 elements required for success. 10 steps that result in the creation of ever expanding web of consumers, the method of operation, the ladder of escalation. And what this does is create both a size and a quality of income that I don't believe we could create doing anything else. That's what I believe. And I believe that within the context of the direct selling industry, we now find ourselves at an inflection point. There have been a few inflection points previously. We now find ourselves at a turning point where companies will not launch, survive, and thrive with products that are priced to meet compensation plans. Products must now be priced to meet the need of the consumer. We've transitioned past the point where there are some compensation mechanisms that are a little bit abusive that I think are falling out of favor and not likely to be embraced. We're finding ourselves getting closer and closer to what can be a sustainable future for a direct selling industry with a proper emphasis on customer acquisition up there at Gen 1, still creating the opportunity for people who are rooted in team building to build organizations in depth and to deliver a product that matters at the consumer level at a higher level than anything I've done before. And that is why that combination of things in total, that is why, in my estimation, this is more profound than fire or electricity or anything we've done in the past. Now, one thing I do want to show you just very quickly, and I know that you guys, a handful of you are still with me after all this time, but because today I found myself not knowing how to get to the candidates, the prospect file. I'm guessing there may be a couple of others of you that are that way. And so I'm going to show you just because I didn't know, and that didn't make any sense to me. So click on here and I will show you. And I appreciate your patience. And so we're going to share the screen, start broadcast. There we go. And if we come up here, here we are in my LevAi. So if we go there, my teams, nope, my marketing, nope, my contacts. All we do is this, come over here and go to my prospects. And when you go to your prospect, tell us about your perfect prospects. And one of the things that a person today told me, well, he wanted to get a list of 1,000 prospects. That's not the way the system works. This is about identifying a candidate at a time and doing a personalized outreach to that candidate. And so now let's say that I want my candidate to be in Tel Aviv. And I want that candidate to be in Israel. Oops. Oh, you know what? It's not going to do it for me because we're not launched there yet, I'll bet. Oh, yeah, this is going to let me. Okay. And it wants my candidate to be in Israel. And so there we go. State, province. I'm just going to eliminate that because I don't know exists. Interest or skills. Real estate. Okay. I'm going to put AI and artificial intelligence. Intelligence. Okay. And it can be either gender. And now we're going to get a prospect. And by the way, I'll talk with the company. Maybe nobody cares but me. I'd way rather be somebody's candidate than prospect. And so I'll suggest that they change that name, although it may not matter to anybody. And so here you see it. We've just learned here's my candidate. His name or her name, not even sure, okay, female, is Leanne Gal. And it tells me about her education. She graduated, or she's in the computer software industry. She works for Facebook, works for Meta, and her title is product manager. Okay. And so now here's her schools, here's her interests and skills, human rights, education, environment, health, analytics, strategic planning, and so on. And so now what I do is I take a picture of that because in a moment I'm going to craft the first message for her. And so it says to view the candidate, and here she is. And here it tells us all about this candidate. It really tells me a lot about her. There's lots of information here that I would need to have. And so now this gives me the opportunity to craft a more appropriate message that I might otherwise have crafted. And so we know that she works for Facebook or for Meta, for that company. And she also has a LinkedIn profile. We're learning all these things about her. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a message for her. And the message that I'm going to write, boom, I am going to phone, email. Oh, wait a second. Go back over there. This is my candidate. And I am going to now write a message to her. And I am going to select her email, select her work email, and hold on here. Okay, write a message. There's what I was looking for. And so what is the message that I want to write? I'm going to start a conversation with her. And I'm going to start a conversation. I can choose if I want to upload an image. I'm not going to do that. And so I am going to say any additional information. We are bringing accessible AI to the masses. The Israeli diaspora is a global diamond mine. Would love to discuss. Okay. And so that's what I said. Here in a moment, it's going to craft it and it will let me decide if I want to send more information or less information. I'm sorry, this was me. This had me responding to a post as opposed to me writing a message. Writing a social message, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to write an email. Let me get out of here. Craft a social media post my business, generate leads, turn contacts into sales, chat my business contacts. Well, that's really confusing to me because just a few minutes ago when I did this, write a message. I'm just trying to write a message. Okay, and I'm trying to start a conversation. All right. Folks, I am really sorry that I even got in here to show you this because it's wanting me to do something that I don't want to do right now. And I know very much what it wants me to do. It wants me to sign out and sign back in. And that is a system flaw. And I apologize that we're seeing that system flaw. And I'm not going to forge on with this right now. I've used it twice today and it works absolutely beautiful, but I'm not going to struggle with it. I'll have it figured out when we meet next time. And by the way, once again, what are you seeing? You're seeing me on day number 5. And what I just experienced, was that frustrating to me? No, that part of my education process. Before I illustrate that again, I will have tinkered around in there enough to make sure that I clicked on the right spot. That was actually not a system flaw. That was a Randy flaw. because a little bit earlier today, I recall I found myself in that exact wrong spot earlier when I was also sending a message. I logged out, I logged back in, and I found it. But it's not a system flaw, it's a Randy flaw. Each of you, I suggest that you do exactly what you're seeing me do. Poke and prod around, be willing to learn, and don't, and please recognize this, because I'm right up front with everybody. And I tell them that I'm not an AI expert and I'm learning this in the last 5 days. By not trying to pretend I'm something that I'm not, people are forgiving of me and they give me the grace to later on tonight. I will clean that up. I will correct that error that I just made in not knowing exactly where to turn at that moment in time. I will say that in terms of my own, in fact, I'll show you guys this too. Go back over to screen share for 1 second. Totally different thought for you. But I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go to this one and this one. Boom, get out of there. Okay, so I'll illustrate a little bit about what I'm doing to not grow a candidate list right now, but to reactivate what is a little bit of a stale, I wouldn't call it a candidate list, a stale friendship list. I have a group of really, really, really good friends in Israel that are very close to me, but I've been out of touch with them for a while. And I'm wanting to re energize those relationships, not just from a business standpoint. I'm wanting to re energize those relationships from a personal standpoint. Similarly, in Japan, I had some of my great, great successes in Japan, but it's a little bit stale right now. It's not right next door. And so here you can see this was, now you can't read all of this, but this happens to be right now as we speak. Israelis and Jewish people around the world are celebrating Rosh Hashanah, which is the highest holy day. So I'm not Jewish, I'm not Israeli. And so I'm not sure if Rosh Hashanah is the highest holiday or if Yom Kippur, which occurs at the conclusion of Rosh Hashanah, if that's the highest holy day. But one of those is the highest holy days. And so this is a post that I chose to write in Hebrew. And of course, I use my LevAi solution to do that. And this post is talking about Rosh Hashanah. And it's talking about my connection with the Israeli people, the love that I have for them, and that's real. And some of my dearest, closest friends. This is the site of the music festival where on October 7th, it'll be 2 years ago, that there was a massacre. And I'm not now being political. A massacre is bad. A massacre is bad. There's no reason to be taking other people's lives, irrespective of what our political views are. And so I was there, and I was there not so very long after it. And it was, I've been to Auschwitz and I've seen some of the horrible atrocities in the world, but Auschwitz was 100 years, well, not 100, but long years ago. It doesn't make it less impactful. But what made the site of the music festival more impactful was how recent it was. And therefore, all of the memorials of all those students and the young people who were unfortunately killed. And it was a very, very moving experience for me. And that's real. I would never say that if it were not. But when I made this post that had absolutely nothing to do about business, but was reflecting upon Rosh Hashanah, my acknowledging my friendships with people in Israel, and my wishing that I was not so distant, that resulted in me having, without trying, likes from some of the people that I've been out of touch with for a while. And one exact example of it was Anat Aloni. She's one of my dear friends from Israel. I've been out of touch with her. Shneur Ben Moshe is one of my great friends. I've been out of touch with Shneur, Levia, Liat. These are people that I once was very close with that I've been out of touch with. The fact that I crafted a social media post in Hebrew, that is what got the response that realivened that relationship. How do I know that? Because I've done plenty of posts before that weren't in Hebrew. And I've done posts that were myself that were attempting to re-engage some of that audience, and it didn't happen. So that, and I want to be really careful here because I didn't do that. How shall I express it? I did it to refresh relationships. That one gentleman, Sneer Ben Moshe, Sneer Sneer actually he was responsible for bringing about 700 Israelis from Israel to a USA convention at one point in time. And it was absolutely incredible. And Sneer, I have such profound respect for him, and I have not talked to Sneer for a long time. And so, whether or not he and I ever do business again, I would like nothing more than to next time I'm in Israel reconnect with Sneer in person. So, there's a lot to this. It's really, I want to be really careful. I'm not trying to use friendships for business. That's not it. It's quite different. What it is I do business with my friends and I become friends with the people I do business with. And I seek intentionally to build important relationships. And so here also, remember, we talk about um, the ability to meet people where they are. I have multiple business profiles. And so one of my business profiles is leadership personified. People around the world know me and they know me as a network marketing leader. And so it's absolutely the truth that a person who is in the network marketing business, if they see me making a post that is talking about a product or service that I offer, I could be considered a threat. If anything, they might remove me from their friendship. They might take me out of their feed because they don't want their team members seeing the message that I'm delivering if it's about some other company, a different possibility. And so here, when I do a post, first of all, that is in Japanese. And I do a post that is in Japanese, but it was written by AI. Why? Because AI knows more about how that Japanese text should be constructed than I can do by simply doing a copy and paste. I can write it in English and do a copy paste that will not be the same as having that when I show my little boy Bosco with the Japan Rising Sun and when I show the Japanese text, is it not somewhat obvious that that would draw some eyes from my historic Japanese circle of influence that a normal post would not? And the answer is yes. And once again, what do I find? I find here, sure enough, some of my domestic participants paying attention, but what else do I see? Shinyakata. This is one of my great, great relationships that I'm out of touch with. These people are people who, some of them I've done enormous amounts of business with, but I've had no relationship or contact with them for years, literally for years. And so the LevAi solution did in fact do for me this morning as a result of sending a post. Oops, get out of there, as a result of last night creating a social media post in Hebrew that reinvigorated, that re-enlivened about 12 relationships in Israel that had gone stale and gives me a chance to regenerate that relationship for the purpose of friendship. And again, I do business with my friends. It is not that I'm using this. I want to be really careful. I'm not trying to abuse a friendship relationship, not at all. These people are my friends. I believe that what we have to offer is of value to them. And so, therefore, it is in no way, shape, or form abusing a relationship to introduce them to LevAi. And so last night, right before I went to bed, I did posts in multiple languages. In each case, they were talking about something significant to that culture. It was Rosh Hashanah. It was Happy New Year. It was acknowledging the extraordinary experience that I had upon visiting the site of the music festival, how it impacted me. Those things are all true. And it's part of what creates my relationship with those folks. Refreshing, reinvigorating relationships and developing new relationships makes everything possible in the future. I am hoping that that very, very, very long bunch of dialogue, you guys have been with me here for 2 hours. That's a long time to listen to anybody. It's especially a long time to listen to me. I am hoping very much that the combination of information that I've shared with you, by the way, I'm just glancing now, get a look at some of the people who are here. And so to my friend Jason Lehman, you and I have been around the block so many times. Once again, this is a project that will help you in your business. I know that. And I also want you to know specifically as an individual that if you also want to use this as a business, that I want to help you do that. And each one of you who are on here, I see my friend down in Costa Rica who's had some of the most challenging experiences in life for the last period of time. Dave, I want you to know that based on everything that I've seen and experienced up until now, this is the best chance that we will ever have to recapitalize the knowledge and the skills that we developed in the direct selling industry and to then expand that that relationship value by introducing those people to the greatest thing we could introduce them to right now, accessible AI, because this is not an option, it is a global mandate. At any rate, I have talked way too long and I appreciate all of your patience. Tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern, we will then do a standard LevAi business presentation. And as we continue to poke and prod around, we're going to figure out what is the most. Now it's evident to me that I have done a poor job of explaining to my counterparts and peers from the direct selling industry how and why this is not leaving behind that which we've learned to do. This is more properly leveraging that which we long ago learned how to do. And this is also giving us possibilities to do things that we never could do. Develop broad, broad, broad customer bases. In addition to developing broad customer bases, also developing a leadership hierarchy which no longer has an almost certainty of stretching the rubber band to the fullest. 4 times in my career, I've stretched the rubber band to the fullest to 1 million people. 4 organizations of mine that had more than 1 million, well, 3 that had more than 1 million people and one that had 964,000. And then the rubber band got stretched as tight as it could stretch. Why did that happen? Because we couldn't run any faster. What we found out is that people were joining us almost always because they wanted to make money. They weren't joining us because they wanted their cholesterol to go down. If they wanted their cholesterol to go down, they bought the product. They were joining me as a distributor because they wanted to make money. Then they found out, oh my gosh, this wasn't as easy as I hoped it would be. I'm having to work, I'm having to develop skills I don't have. Then they placed a real scrutinizing glance at the product and found out I can buy something like this for half as much money someplace else. And so the fastest I've been able to run has been getting to the point where about the 6-month-old recruit, 90% of them are realizing I'm not making the money I wanted to make. And so they're going to buying the product someplace else. And so I've had to replace 6 months ago's recruit with this month's recruit. And I could never run fast enough to cause that to go past 1 million. That's what stretched the rubber band as tight as it could possibly go. Well, now there's no such thing as a rubber band getting stretched full at 1 million because every single human being that I know and every single human being that you know will be required by the global mandate to adopt AI. Therefore, we today have the possibility to break the rubber band. There is no limitation. It's as though you can now shoot the arrow into the sky and there is no gravitational pull. That's the way I vision this. We can shoot the arrow into the sky, but there is no gravitational pull. And so there's no limit to how high it can go. I keep trying to come up with ways to properly describe what I think is an unbelievable opportunity. Folks, you've been very kind to give me all this time. Have the best day yet, and we'll see you along the way. Bye bye.